Three homages. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Namo 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 Namo.
Good morning, everyone. Morning and welcome. So wonderful to see all of you this morning. It's a beautiful morning. We are going to chant our Shoshinge, which is a pleasantly long poem written by our lineage founder, Shinran Shonin, in 13th century Japan. So if you're new to chanting this, we chant it in vertical columns starting from the right and go top to bottom, going left. So there's a little translation at the bottom, or you can sit and just take in the good vibes. It's all good. So Shinran wrote about his experiences from the 7 teachers from India, China, and Japan. And that is the teaching that we are chanting about Pure Land Buddhism. Shinran wanted us to know that our life is more than just a simple journey from cradle to the grave, but that we are part of a long, unbroken thread of life, which extends deep, deep into the past, and we are responsible for extending that thread into the future. As we are chanting the Shoshinge, we will be offering incense to the god of cake. No, to the infinite wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. I'm glad you like that. I love cake. I should love it less. We want to offer incense in gratitude to this wisdom and compassion that supports us every day. Also with a sense of humor. We need to laugh more. We have 2 other altars in our hondo. The altar of compassion, if you want to offer incense to cultivate and just point that energy for cultivating more compassion in your life, or direct it to a loved one who may have transitioned or passed on to the next realm, you are welcome to do that there. We have the Medicine Buddha altar on this side of the hondo where we extend healing energy either to yourself or to a dear one. And we just want to cultivate a lot of compassion here together today. So that is why we are here. Thank you so much and enjoy. Naman Babs. Shoshinge. Kimyo muryo 나무 흑하시기코 호소보사이니지 자이세지 자이오부쇼 토켄쇼부조도인 코쿠도닌덴 시센마크 콘루무조슈쇼간 조호케우다이구세 고코시의시쇼주 주세묘쇼 몬지포 무호무료무헨코 무게무타이코 엔노 쇼조 강기 지에코 그단난시 무쇼코 초니치가 코쇼진세 이사이 군조 무코쇼 통감요고 쇼조고 시신신교 간니인 조토각쇼다이네한 히시멧노간조주 뇨라이쇼이 코슈세 유이셀미다 홍공카이 고조쿠와쿠지군조카이 오신요라이 료짓곤 노호이치넨 기아이신 부담본노 토쿠네한 몬쇼격쿠호사이에유 요슈신유 카이치미 세슈신고 조쇼고 이노스위하 음요한 돈나이 신조시을무 조후신지 신진텐 인연이 코훈무 은무시계묘무한 격신갱교다이교기 속구오 조제고 아크슈 이사이젠 마크본부님 신요라이 구세간 문공 고다이 쇼게샤 제니묘 fun다리께 미다부홍간넨부 자켄교만 아크슈조 신교주지진니난 난주시난 묵하시 인도 사이텐 시론계 즉하지지 있게 시코소 켄다이쇼 고세쇼이 묘뇨라이 혼제오키 샤카뇨라이 요가센 이슈고묘난텐 지쿠 르주라이지 슈토세 shitnoza이하 우무켄 센세 다이조 무조호 쇼칸기지 쇼안라쿠 켄진 앙교로쿠로쿠 신교이교 시도라쿠 오쿠넨 미다부홍간 진넨 소쿠지 류히տն조 유이노조 쇼뇨라이고 오호다이히 구세온 텐징 보사 조론세 김요무게 곤요라이 에슈 타라 켄신지 코센 오초다이세간 코유홍간 리키에코 이도군조 쇼이신 긴유쿠도쿠다이 호카이 hitnyakun yudai e shushu tokushi renge zo sekai sokusho shinyo hoshoshin yubon no ringen jinzu nyushon jion ji oge honji donran ryotenshi chokoran shobosarai sanzoru shiju jokyo 본쇼 센교 기라쿠호 텐징 보사론 슈게 호도인가 켄세간 오겐 에코 유타리키 쇼조시인 유이시 와크젠 본부 신진호 쇼치 쇼지 소쿠네한 히시 무료 공여도 小宇宙上開封系同社継承道南省有名浄土活入万全自力変言宗変満特語感染症三風三神慶音言増魔法明道非因一生造悪地偶税西安妖怪称名化全道独名武将医公愛量産業逆悪公明明語権威年開入本願大地開行者小樹金剛心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即小法小四上楽原神公開一大教変気安養可二祭先祖出身半仙人法華二道小弁流極十悪人類勝負外悪罪非正集中本能証言水不見大非無見上昇が本次元君明仏教人民全幕本部人新中教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現代生じ臨伝芸慶地義上位小子即入弱上無意楽非知心事にの有苦境大事修士と上妻無変極辱悪同族自主愚道心唯過心しこそせナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムミダジョブのこの方は今に自己をへたまえり星の氷やぬきわもなくせのもみょうを照らすなりえこかんにしくどくようどせいさい
Now we would like to invite the children to go to Dharma School with Reverend Shelley and Aaron. We will sing them out.
The Dharmachakra Pavatana Sutra, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma. Thus I have heard. Some weeks after enlightenment, the Buddha walked from Bodh Gaya to Varanasi. He walked slowly through villages and farms. Everyone was immediately attracted to him, tall and handsome, moving with dignity and grace. Just seeing him brought calmness and joy to the people. He spoke kind and gentle words of comfort to everyone he met. Whether they were rich or poor, simple or intelligent, Buddha treated them all equally with great love and respect. In time, he reached the deer park. From a distance, 5 pilgrims saw him approach. These were the ascetics he had lived with before he ate the food Sujata offered him, saving his life. Quickly, they whispered to one another, "Here comes the good-for-nothing Siddhartha. Let us have nothing to do with such a quitter. Ignore him if he comes near." But as Buddha approached them, immediately they felt that there was something very special about him. Forgetting their plan, they automatically stood as he drew near. With great respect, they prepared a seat for him, took his robe, brought him some water, and said, "Welcome, Siddhartha, to the deer park. We are honored that you have joined us here." Buddha answered, "I thank you for your kind welcome, friends, but you should know that I am no longer Siddhartha. It is no longer correct for you to call me by that name." By what name should we call you?" they asked. "The whole world is asleep in ignorance," he answered. "When someone discovers the truth, they sleep no longer. Now I am awake, having discovered the truth. All who awaken are called Buddha." The 5, with great respect, said, "O Buddha, please teach us what you have learned so that we may too awaken." In answer to their request, Buddha delivered his first teaching, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma that he had discovered. "Friends," he began, "you must know that there are 4 noble truths. The first is the noble truth of joyless life. Instead of radiant joy, we fill our life with the miseries of birth, old age, sickness, and death. People chase after pleasure, amplifying pain. Even when they do find something pleasant, they soon grow tired of it. Nowhere do they find any real satisfaction or peace. Second is the noble truth of the cause of joylessness. When our mind is filled with wanting or desire, sufferings of all types automatically follow. This ignorant and greedy attitude is the cause of all dissatisfaction, robbing us of our peace and joy. Third is the noble truth of the end of joylessness. When we remove ignorant wanting and desire from our heart, all suffering and dissatisfaction will come to an end. We experience joyfulness, far greater than ordinary pleasures, and abide in peace beyond words. Finally, the 4th truth is the noble truth of the path to abiding joy. If we avoid harming other living beings, if we broaden and quiet our mind, and if we gain wisdom, each of us can reach abiding joy, the end of all misery." When they heard these words, the 5 men gladdened, as if they had found a great treasure of gold. "O Buddha," they said, "you have indeed found the truth. Please teach us the path to deep wisdom and abiding joy." We will be your students. That day, many unseen spirits also heard the first teaching and flew to the ends of the earth, crying, "The Buddha has begun to teach. Let all the world rejoice." We will now have a few moments of meditation accompanied by music.
Thought about sneaking a little frosting there, but then somebody might see me, so I didn't do that. Welcome again, friends. There is a sign in front of the temple that Reverend Bill put there, and it says, "Everyone is welcome." So if you're a new person and you're come through the door for the first time, you are truly welcome. If you're an old friend that's been with us for a long time, that you were absolutely welcome. It applies to everyone. We gather together here to make ourselves aware of the Buddha in all things, the wisdom and compassion of the universe around us. We gather together to talk about the Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha. And today we will examine the 4 important insights that the Buddha came to with his enlightenments, 4 truths. As we heard in the sutra, thank you, Agni, the Buddha discovered again these important truths. That these are taught by all the Buddhas, and there have been many. This little planet, maybe a few, but in the whole universe, there are as many Buddhas as there are grains of sand in the Ganges River, is what they say. So it's not a super exceptional thing. It can happen to all beings, and we need to know that. The truth that he came to see is that we are not living the joyful life that we could. That the cause of that is our wanting for things and ideas and even selfhood. Third, if we remove, actually the way they used to do it is 1, 2, 3. So if you see a statue that has fingers like this, it's a counting thing. So, third, if we remove the cause, then joy flows into our life. Remove the wanting. And the way to remove that wanting has 8 aspects. We call it the Eightfold Path, and we capitalize Eightfold Path for some reason. I overcapitalize myself, but that's just me. And apologies to Linda Brown at Truckee High for overcapitalizing. It's my English teacher. The Buddha's great wish for all of us is to live joyfully. And there's a deep spiritual meaning to that is contrasted with being happy sometimes. Happiness and joyfulness, we can differentiate. I was taught when I spent some time in a monastery in Sri Lanka that they were really different things. You can be joyful about everything, but you can only be happy when you get what you want. So, very different things. A fundamental spiritual quality of joy. The Buddha, once he saw this clearly, that wonderful day under the Bodhi tree, that's not the Bodhi tree, that's a Bodhi tree, but still a Bodhi tree. It's alive. Tree just like that, genetically. And he sat beneath it and grappled with everything that he'd learned for lifetime after lifetime and came to this flash, our Tibetan friends go, of enlightenment. It was a big deal. So, now he came to that point of enlightenment not all of a sudden. He was born in that last lifetime before enlightenment as a prince. Doesn't everybody want to be a prince or a princess? Either way. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. There were fissures in the wonderfulness, in the happiness, the fun, do whatever you wantness of being a prince. And it started to weigh on him, and so this is a little background on the Buddha, he gave it up. He gave up his life in the palace. He had to go to another country because his dad was the king, and you can't really cross the king without getting in trouble. So he went to another country and studied He studied with many different teachers, 7 different teachers, or 6 different teachers, and then he spent a year of independent ascetic practice. In the context of the religion of the time, they felt that this was maybe a wonderful, beautiful spiritual entity that had been kind of sullied and dirtied by interacting with the earth and food and each other. And if we could just cleanse completely, then maybe then the spiritual part of us could connect with the universe. So that's what he was pursuing. This ultimately resulted in him eating 1 or 2 grains of rice a month. And he was terribly emaciated. And he came to an important realization before his enlightenment that this was killing him, and that he could not think clearly if he was struggling to breathe and to walk. So in the sutra, they mentioned that Sujata, a village girl, accidentally brought him some food. She was bringing it to the tree spirit, but the Buddha was there, so he received the food from her. And that brought him back to health, and then he resolved to sit beneath the Bodhi tree and solve this fundamental problem of why don't people just take the path that leads to joyful life. So he reached what we call enlightenment beneath that tree on the Naranjara River. A wonderful event for all sentient beings, not only on this little planet, but in the whole universe, because everything is connected. The Buddha stayed there after his enlightenment, alone or not alone. The celestial beings were kind of monitoring his actions most of the time, and kind of in their beautiful paintings. I don't think we have any of here. Oh yes, in that painting on the wall, that scroll, there's a Buddha teaching. That's not Siddhartha Buddha, that's another one, but Lokasvara Raja Buddha. But see, above him in the celestial realm, the devas and devis they're interested too. We have that feeling that there's more than just our little human realm in the room that we experience. So all the sentient beings were intrigued and encouraged with the Buddha's enlightenment. The Buddha stayed beneath the tree for the first week and just soaked it in. Like, this is different. This is a wonderful, different experience. And he just soaked it in. And then for weeks after that, he stayed in the general area of the Bodhi tree. When you go and visit on a pilgrimage, they're different. The tour guide will take you to the place he did walking meditation, this other banyan tree where he had another insight, and like that. We call that the weeks of enlightenment. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what it's called. Buddha reflected on that experience, contemplated the nature of everything, started to think systematically about the ideas of these 4 noble truths, and then just meditated beneath the tree. It was a wonderful time. After that, or at the end of that wonderful time on his own, Sujata was bringing him some food on and off, so he was fine. A celestial being came and spoke with the Buddha about, maybe you could teach about this. It would be great. Think of all the beings that would benefit from teaching about this. And the Buddha thought, well, yes, but this is the culmination of thousands and thousands of lifetimes for me. If I just say it to people, it might be difficult for them to understand. And then they would be frustrated, and I might be frustrated, and I don't know. He said, I don't know. It may not be worth it. The celestial being was adamant that it was important, and that even if only a few beings learned something, it would be a great benefit. The Buddha saw the wisdom in that argument and chose to teach. So at that point he walked from Bodh Gaya to Isipatana, where the deer park is, near Varanasi, which is a very old city. So the city was there when the Buddha was there. And as he walked, He greeted people, he interacted with people. When he came to the deer park, he found the 5 friends that, when he'd gone on that independent study, ascetic business off by himself without a teacher, there wasn't a lot of discussion. There was no talking for a year, like a silent meditation retreat in the woods with no houses or anything, just eating, like I said, a few grains of rice. But they had been, those 5 ascetics were together. These were other students that had gone to the other teachers the Buddha had been studying with, and then kind of collected or recognized the Buddha had some special insights and went from teacher to teacher with him. Well, so he had given up that purification practice, and that's why they said, we're not going to follow that quitter Siddhartha. He gave up. Well, he gave up and had a wonderful insight. So, but they saw that, when he approached them, they saw that he was fundamentally different, that he, notice that the Amida Buddha statue behind me has a corona of sorts, these rays of light. There were 108 there. That sense of light, of wisdom, is I wouldn't say palpable because you can't feel it with your fingers, but you could sense it when you were around it, and so they appreciated that and asked him to teach. He asked him to teach about those 4 noble truths, that we are not living the joyful life that we could, that the cause of that is wanting for things, ideas, and selfhood. And if we remove that cause, joy flows in. The way we remove that wanting has 8 aspects. That's the 4 noble truths. You could be wondering why there's a large piece of chocolate cake on the altar. It's an object lesson. We can all reflect and get insight. When we look at a piece of cake that we cannot have, even independent of starting to want some of the cake, there is an uncomfortable feeling. Some people might have the feeling that what a waste of a piece of cake. Just sort of a sustainability issue, climate change and all that. And then other people might lament that their gluten intolerance makes them unable to eat such cake. I had a disease of the GI system that made it so I was not able to eat sugar for a long time. It came to the point where my daughter, if she had a piece of cake, she'd take the cake and wave it in front of my nose so that I could at least smell it. But there was no implication I would eat it. But that can be uncomfortable if you see a thing you can't have, even if you see something you don't like. What if you dislike, what kind of cake is that, Will? Oreo chocolate cake. So apparently, I think they crunch up Oreos somewhere in there, right? Is it in the cake part or in the frosting?
I'm not sure. Definitely in the frosting.
Okay. Maybe both, maybe just the frosting. What we experience is, it's a piece of cake. We should be happy about it, right? Is anyone happy about this piece of cake right now? I certainly am not. Because I can't have it. No. So this it's kind of so this word dukkha, that's the old word the Buddha would have used for the feeling of things not quite right. People try to translate it as stress, suffering. You get that a lot. And probably in college you read about Buddhism and it's suffering, 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 and it's like, well, I'm never going to a Buddhist temple. It sounds really bad. So we don't use that word that much here. Unsatisfactoriness is like this gigantically long word people try to translate. It's like, well, it's not really a word we use. So, however we say it, dukkha has kind of 2 types. There's the walking along barefoot, step on the beach, step on a piece of driftwood with a nail in it. And when you see it, that nail protrude from the top of your foot, that is dukkha. Literally, that's how you say it. The suffering of suffering. That's like when something really nasty happens and you can see the blood. And that happens to us sometimes, but not that often. What happens to us most of the time is the more subtle, wearing, things just not going the way we wanted them to, suffering. That happens every day. It begins when you wake up in the morning, perhaps even while you're sleeping at night. You roll over, you feel a little uncomfortable. It's like, oh, Couldn't I just sleep through the whole night? Why am I waking up? That feeling is that kind of subtle wearing at you. Just driving to work in the morning. How many people experience stress while driving to work in the morning? Anyone? Yeah, there's a few people that have a commute and you got to get there and all this stuff. And somebody cuts you off. Rat bastard. No, sorry. He probably needs to get to work. He probably has an issue. I'll let him go. That's the skillful way to approach that instance. So there's the gross dukkha that we all know about, but it really doesn't happen that much. Most of the time we suffer this kind of grinding, gnawing, kind of frictional dukkha. It just wears us down. So, and in response to the dukkha, to the suffering-y feeling, what do? I think the first thing we do, and I was observing, this is a little bit of an experiment, many people did not look at the cake. They just went about their business with the incense and hoped that cake thing was going to just disappear. What's with this weird cake thing? I don't want to know. Okay, so avoidance, number one method of response to that feeling of unsatisfactory. We suppress it. I shouldn't expect to be respected. I won't think about that. Or another example, we just minimize, try to ignore it. Even seeing other people suffer is unpleasant in this same way. It triggers the feeling inside us, and so we don't see them. We don't look at the person. We don't smile at somebody who's clearly sitting on the sidewalk for a long period of time in the day and has nowhere to go. We just kind of go by and hope. We feel it, even if we don't look. We feel it, and we hurt for them. It's awkward, this dukkha thing. So, and our culture actively overlooks, suppresses the suffering of poverty, illness, aging, dying. Ooh, we don't really talk about that much. Let's just have a parade of special masks that you can purchase to make you look younger, and you can upgrade your iPhone, you'll feel better. You can drink lime-infused Michelob, which is a thing. Apparently it makes people happy because in the advertisement they're all happy. So this just goes on and on. But it's all about a response, that initial response to suffering of now there's a whole industry. Madison Avenue spends billions of dollars, I don't know, maybe billions of dollars a week, but at least a month, trying to make us not notice that we're not living in the joyful way we could. So we can each reflect on things that we suffer in our life, and that's okay. It's the way the Buddha said it was that suffering something without even noticing it is like the burden of a mule that is overloaded. His legs can barely handle the weight. That's when we don't acknowledge and accept our suffering. That's that kind of crushing weight. And it comes out in all kinds of ways. But if I just don't look at it, maybe it will go away. So, accept that it's okay and that it's normal. And that relieves some of that crushing weight. It's a universal truth. We all share that experience. It's just suffering. Everybody's got it. It's okay. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a big deal that our life is starved of joy, just the way it's happening right now. And when we accept that, it's a great truth. Now, the next step after that, that the Buddha came to, in the old days, this is the way doctors worked. They would observe the symptoms and then find the cause and then try to remove the cause with the treatment. And I guess that's how doctors work now, too. Interesting. In the ancient system, this was these Four Noble Truths patterned exactly after the medical system. So once you find the thing that's causing the trouble, you're halfway there, maybe more than halfway there. So it's a good news, bad news thing. The bad news is not joyful. The good news is the Buddha's insight was to find that wanting, desire, longing, that is the cause of the suffering. So we can address that. Now we know what the issue is. The old Pali word for wanting, the word tanha was used, which means thirst, but it gets translated as desire, attachment, self-righteousness, addiction, all kinds of wanting. And there's two kinds of wanting, because there's wanting to have something. The cake is a good example. Ooh, I want a piece of cake. And then there's the other one. Oh, I hate cake. I don't like cake. But they're really the same thing. They're two sides of a leaf from the Buddhist point of view. That aversion and attraction are essentially operate the same way. There's sources, the same kind of source of suffering for us. And that makes sense. They're absolute inverses of each other, so they would, our spirit would respond to them in similar ways. So the wanting feels unpleasant. You know, when you really, really want something and you don't have it, it feels unpleasant. It feels not right. And then there's the problem when you get it. Now, I wanted to do this demonstration with ice cream, because the ice cream cone, I use that analogy a lot, and Reverend Shelley pointed out that there is no ice cream that would last as long as a piece of cake on the cake. It would just melt and done. So we didn't use ice cream. But anicca, impermanence, is another struggle for us, because we want a nice piece of cake, and then if we have the nice piece of cake, it doesn't do us any good unless we eat the cake. Marie Antoinette reminded us of that wonderful fact. I will not accede to Marie's request that we let them eat cake, because this cake's been sitting out for a long time and you don't really want to eat it. But it's all impermanent. So just when we develop a stable system, I have my cake, then it falls apart. Somebody takes a bite, I eat it. Wait, what happened? My plate is empty. Now we don't feel good, because I don't have cake anymore, and I used to have cake and now I don't have cake. So think about it. I felt bad because I didn't have cake. I got a piece of cake. I did briefly eat it and experience the kind of pleasure for a second. But even then, if you eat too much, you know, it doesn't, not very long, it's feeling good, and then it starts to be, ooh, that was a lot of cake. Now my plate's empty. I feel terrible. I don't have cake anymore. So that's the hedonic treadmill, I guess is a technical word for some of that, that we all experience, that the Buddha noticed. So it is a good way to pass on our genes from generation to generation as a species. I get it. It's important to kind of keep striving and wanting, because then eventually there are more of whatever sentient being you may be. It is not a system for joyful beings. It is actually built to have us feel frustrated and suffer all the time. So, Nagarjuna, one of our important teachers, wrote that beings brief, ephemeral, we who fiercely cling to what is also passing will catch no glimpse of joy in this or any life. So, it does sound like suffering, doesn't it? Okay. Attachment and aversion, like I said, the same problem, either wanting or wanting to go away. We experience this suffering feeling. If we're averse to something, then we can look forward to changefulness because it'll go away. And then if we like something, then we lament changefulness because then we lose what the brand new iPhone is no longer bad once it gets the scratches and like that. So having stuff isn't that great. I mean, think about it. Super rich people spend all their time worrying about losing what they have. They have to hire bodyguards with weapons to protect their children when they go to school. What a terrible life. It's terrible. Lindbergh's the most horrible example of that. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. Madison Avenue with $1 billion a week, yeah, they're trying to trick us. But Shantideva, another Buddhist teacher, said, "O foolish and afflicted mind, you want, you crave for everything." And that brings us to the third noble truth the Buddha found. If we stop wanting, if we just don't want the cake, it's cake, there's cake, it's there. We can even enjoy that cake exists, and I don't have any. It's okay. I don't have cake today. The light is green. Yay! Oh, it's red. Cool. It's a different way of looking at the world. But it comes down to the way we look at the world. It's kind of like letting go. I mean, thirst and attachment we associate. The Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, a wonderful Vietnamese priest, said, if you let go a little, you'll have a little joy. If you let go a lot, you'll have a lot of joy. And if you let go completely, you will be completely joyful. This is what our Nembutsu is about. We have a scroll there. It says Namu Amida Butsu. Gratitude to the Buddha. Gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion in the universe around us that cares for us and supports us, that holds us, never to be let go. There's no wanting in that. So when I say Namu Amida Butsu, it's not wanting it, I have it. We all have it. We're all supported by this loving universe that we're in. Abiding in that feeling tone instead of the, oh, I don't have cake, I have too much cake, I don't have cake anymore, treadmill thing, is much more pleasant. It's going to be okay. We have that. We are completely supported by that. And we are grateful. We are okay, just as we are. Cultivate that kind of gratitude changes our experience of everything, each day. Our commute in the morning, a strange interaction with a piece of cake in a church, whatever it may be, it's okay. Green lights, red lights. Just being grateful is the shift that we cultivate. And sure, we'd like things to work out, and we do plan, and we can save and organize and go to school for this. Oh, that's fine. But know that there will be bumps in the road, and bumps in the road are okay. What did one teacher said? Pain is normal, suffering is optional. It's an interesting thing to think about. So if we it's not that we decide to suffer. I'd like to suffer today. But we do sort of do that. We do sort of choose the suffering track instead of gratitude and joy. So the Buddha offers us the option. Just reside in gratitude and joy and see how it works. You can try it for a short period of time. Now, what to do? In the example, when something happens, our cake example, you came up, you were offering incense, you were looking at the cake. Now there's amused feelings, but also bemused feelings, and then some worried feelings like, what on earth is Brother Matthew going to do with the cake? There's some of that was going on. Just observe it. Just watch it. In all of our Buddhist system, we don't pursue control as much as observation. Because as within the Buddha's life, once we observe, we can see how things work, then it's kind of clear what to do. Skillful actions are clear when we clearly see, and that's what the Buddha pursued. So just observe, whether it's unpleasantness or pleasantness, it has the same valence. It's, up or down, off the sine wave, whatever that baseline thing is called. We can see what triggers our wanting. We can say, oh, there you go again. There's your wanting thing. Okay. You can just enjoy, you walk around the mall and not buy anything. Just enjoy that this whole spectacle is here, and there's all these thingies, and the people are rushing around. It's fun. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to get it to make yourself whole. It's not necessary. So, take away the wanting and joy flows in. Our Nembutsu is a way of feeling that gratitude in every moment. Now, we feel that when we're at the temple. We are grateful for each other to be here, for the support of the place, of everyone who came before, who's donated and kept the lights on and everything working. We're grateful to our teachers, Daigon and Alicia, and the 7 teachers from India, China, and Japan for even sharing the Dharma with us. We're grateful for all those things. And we can kind of soak in that. That's one of the things that makes this a very peaceful place, is it feels good to be supported in that way. But when we go out in the world, those supports are there too, in many ways. And seeing them and appreciating them is good. Yeah. So, 4 Noble Truths. I just talked about 3. Time is up. That's okay, because the 4th truth is the Eightfold Path. There's 8 more things. It's kind of a bait and switch thing. So we'll talk about the 4 Noble Truth, the Eightfold Path, the 4th Noble Truth, next time, and the next time, and the next time. We'll divide it into 3 groups. Is probably the best way to do it, because there's a lot. 8 things, a lot of things to talk about at one time. So it is about the path. That is the 4th Noble Truth, is the answer to your question that you're all asking. Yeah, okay, so remove the wanting. That sounds good. How do you do that? That's what the Eightfold Path answers. Today, we examine these 4 important insights of the Buddha. We call them truths. We're not living the joyful life we could. The cause of that is our wanting for things, ideas, and selfhood. If we remove that cause, joy flows in. And the way to do that has 8 aspects. It is the great wish of every Buddha that all beings truly live a joyful life. Joyful in the sense that they greet every day, troubles and triumphs, with vibrant acceptance. This has a deep spiritual meaning. Not just happiness, but joy. So, the Buddha experienced true joy in being. Yeah. And we can all feel that joy. The Buddha shared this out of his great wish for all of us, and we can share that together. Please make gassho and say after me, may you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Namadams, namadams, namadams. Thank you. We usually finish our service with the penultimate Reno Buddhist Center theme song. It's on page 49 of the service book. If you would stand, Masako will play the piano at Galen's request. Thank you so much. I do have a few important announcements. There are some written announcements on the order of service. I would point your attention to that. Also, if you're new, there is a complete calendar on the back of it that you can look at. Announcements. Number one, there's tea and treats downstairs. We've been talking about cake a lot, and I know that's unfair if we don't offer some. So if we go down through the stores, there's tea and treats downstairs. There will be a newcomer circle. So if you're new, we sit in the circle together, and we can ask any question you may have about RBC. George Killeran there, he's raising his hand, initiated that group to support new folks, and we appreciate that. We will meet in the Seishi room, a separate room, because the Haroma Hall has gotten a little boisterous and a little too loud. We kind of can't hear each other ask questions. So get some tea and a treat, and then if you're new, and go into the newcomer circle. I can't believe there's 5 announcements. Okay, the Buddhism 101 class starts next Saturday, and it will be 3 Saturdays in a row at 10 o'clock in the morning in the fireside room here. So a new to Buddhism or not new to Buddhism, you can enjoy that class. We will have an informational meeting about the meditation hall that we're going to build this year at the temple. There's a chart there with the thermometer thing. It's actually a stack of meditation cushions as people donate and support that project. We were beneficiaries of a solstice gathering at Deity, the architect's place last night, and so we got there was a lot of important support lined up there. We'll talk about that at the information meeting. 4th of July barbecue from 3 to 5 on the 4th of July on the lawn RBC. So if you'd like to be with other folks on the 4th of July, come and we will be there. The barbecue will be hot. You have to bring something to put on it, whatever you like. And well, this is an interesting announcement. We were given a baby grand piano, sort of. It's electric, but still, it's a wonderful piano. It is just behind me. It's kind of invisible, but it's tucked away there. Reverend Shelley wrote on the note, "Can anyone play the piano?" I could feel kind of like the flight attendant walking back into the cabin of the 747 saying, "Can anyone fly a 747?" But okay. We would like to use that gift, maybe if someone liked to play the piano and they can play Greensleeves adequately, that would be fun to do. So, thus endeth the announcements. Namaste.